All right, this is De Bello Gallico, Book 5, Chapter 42. This one's pretty short, so hopefully we can go through it pretty quickly. So unlike many, this doesn't start with an ablative absolute. We have ab, hoc, spe, which goes together, and then repulsi, which is a perfect passive participle that describes the nervii, and they're the subject. The nervii, having been repulsed, ab, hoc, spe, and then what do they do? Wallo pedum nona et fossa pedum quindecem hiberna cingunt. And then cingunt means to surround or gird, and this means they're sieging, right? They cingunt the hiberna with a wallo and a fossa. And then we have these genitives. Pedum is really third declension, and so the ending is genitive plural. And this is called the genitive of measure, sort of 9 feet, and a fossa of 15 feet. So the nervii are surrounding the Roman camp, and trenches give them sort of the high ground, and they make it hard for the Romans to leave. And then they're building up a wall or a rampart, which helps them later get into the Roman camp. Haec et superiore annam consuetudine ab nobis cognoverat et. So you have 2 ets, so make sure you get your both and the haec refers to the wallo and the fossa. And haec is actually the accusative neuter plural, not the nominative, because the verb, is cognoverant. They had found out about these things. They had known or discovered these things, both by one thing and something else. So they had, the S really go with the verb. They both had known about these things. They had both found out about these things by the consuetudine, and then superiore annorum means the previous years, and it's genitive. And then the ab nobis, it's the idea of the consuetudine. It's the practice by us. They had learned from us by the practice. And quosclam ab exercitu habebant captivos abes docebantur. And there's a little note on this about how the quos is really referring to the eis. So it seems like logically you would put it after, but usually because it's the antecedent, right? Ante means before, but here it's actually after. So it's emphasizing the Romans, sort of whom clam de exercitu habebant, and the subject of habebant still nervi, who they were having as captivos clam de exercitu. From them, they were being taught. So they've captured some Romans, and they've learned about Roman tactics, and that's very Roman, right, to dig a trench and to build up a rampart. So it's kind of like places have been switched. The nervii are acting like the Romans, and they've learned from captives. Clam isn't related to the word clam, but it's nice because clams are like shut, and they're hiding stuff inside, so it's secretly. But nulla feramentorum copiae, quae essen ad hunc usum idionea. Right. So this is an ablative absolute, the nulla and the copia. And the feramentorum is obviously genitive plural. So with no sort of supply of the fera of that is iron, right? So these are iron tools, which would be idionea for this use. And the verb, which there's a typo on your sheet, it's not really a typo, but in the book it says videbantur, so I would change that. they were seen. This is not the seem passive, but it's the actual they were seen. They were seen to do a number of things. Circum cidere caespites gladiis, and exhaurire terram manibus saegulisque. So they have these ideas of what to do, but they don't have the tools with which to do them. So they have to use their swords to dig, and they have to use their hands and their cloaks to make the trenches. So they're kind of digging out the earth, and then instead of putting it in a wheelbarrow, they're putting it all on a cloak and dragging it away. So we have in both of these infinitive, an accusative, and then an ablative, right? Or backwards, ablative, accusative, infinitive, ablative, accusative, infinitive. Nice parallelism. Quaquidem ex re hominum multitudo cognosci potuit. There's a note on this qua ex re. It's one of these quas that refers back from which thing. Which would be like from this thing, right? From not having from them building, a lot of stuff. Indeed, which is the quidem. From which thing indeed? Hominum, make sure you know, is genitive. It's that third declension, genitive plural. Multitudo is your nominative. The number or large crowd of men, cognosci potuit, is able, and the cognosci is your infinitive. It's complementary with potuit, and it's passive because it ends in an I. Was able to be known, which means they could tell that there are a whole bunch of men because they were building things really, really quickly. And he's going to go on to explain exactly how quickly. Nominus horis tribus millium pedum quindecem in circuitu munitionem perfecerunt. For in less than horis tribus they had perfecurunted amunitum, and again pedum and the millium too is genitive plural, just like we saw it. This is again a genitive of measure, of 15 miles, and it really is, it says of 15,000 of feet in circumference in circuitu, and you can see the word circuit in there, which means around, like the circuit of the Americas. It's a racetrack, they go around. Right, perfecerunt is a good example of per as an intensifying prefix. To do something all the way through is to complete it, to finish. Reliquisque diebus turres ad altitudinem vali, and then they do a whole bunch of other things. And so we have an ablative of time when. There's some notes on these time words horis and diebus. Sort of on the remaining days. And then we have our accusatives here. We have to go to the very end of the sentence to get our verbs. They quaeperunt, which needs a complementary infinitive. And there's two here, parare et facere. And then we can go back up and take our accusatives. What did they? Parare et facere. Turres, falces tes tu denesque. That's it. And so these are like, you've probably seen them in documentaries and stuff. They build up these kind of tall towers to get over other people's ramparts. So they've built up their own ramparts. And the Romans have ramparts. So they learned to build the ramparts from the Romans. And so to get over the Romans' ramparts, they've built these little towers that have kind of stairs in the middle. And they've built them ad altitudinem vali. So they're high enough. And they have started parare et facere falces, and this is again to get over the walls or something they can, it's like Batman, throw over and pull up. And testudines, which there's a picture of in the book, and then there's a good note actually on the next page, 134, the note 7, that says, like, I put sheds down. It doesn't necessarily mean the this formation. It can also mean like something that they've built to withstand any arrows or rocks or anything that's been thrown from the Romans or from the enemy. So it could be this, I think of them holding plywood over them. Quas idem captivi docuerant, which in the same way the captives had taught. So they learned a number of things from the captives, how to build trenches and ramparts, and then this kind of siege tactics of how do you get over the walls. You build towers and you get hooks to hook onto the ramparts to pull yourself up, and you get sheds to protect yourself from any resistance. So he gets 42.